you or mock you. They mad cause you bad and they not you. You fall down but get up and skip and hop through. Kick down doors for others to walk through. You have a purpose to make you say, did I do that? Urkel. Now we calling reality virtue. This is who I am. This is me. Don't let them words hurt you. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send the flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come.
All right, y'all. Hello. I am Lindy Kemming, and we are going to do this journey of SEL together. So my moderator today is Jordan Koch, and so she is there for you. Bryson, every time she got married, so her name changed. It throws me through a loop. But, and she had a birthday, so she's getting older, so all the things. But I am Lindy Kemming, and I teach 3rd grade at Florence Elementary, and I have previously taught 1st grade and 4th grade. So kind of just making my rounds through the grades there. My background, though, is in social work and early childhood mental health. So I work for administration for children and families, so a lot in the realm of outside of the environment of the classroom and how their world kind of shapes their thinking. So let's get started. The first thing is that this is a QR code for the Padlet. This will hopefully be really helpful for you. I've put a gajillion and 50 things on there for you. It's kind of like my brain dumped into a Padlet. There are all of the links that we're going to be using in the presentation, along with video links or things that maybe I didn't get to, full articles that I've pulled from, and additional resources. So the Keller ISD SEL standards, the competencies, evaluations, and also my SEL Google folder, which has got so many things in it, but hopefully you guys can refer back to that for helpful tips. But I would leave this open on some sort of a device for you for today, because it will help you with discussion guides and links if the QR codes aren't working. This is for question and answers. So if you have a question, instead of putting it into the chat, I'm asking that you put it here. It will streamline the questions for us a little bit better. And that way I can go in and answer them, and you will be able to refer back to them because the link will be on the Padlet. But this way, all the questions will be in one place, including questions of people that watch the recorded session, or if you have a question after the presentation. So I would go ahead and use that at any time. So why should we be integrating SEL, and why is SEL important, and why is it that they're asking me to do another thing in the classroom and we already have 11 to 90 things that we have to do in one day? So how are you supposed to manage all of that? So why is SEL so important? And why did I feel like sharing information with you on it? And so one of the things that I like to use with my own thinking is whenever there is something going on with the student, or whenever there is something happening, or maybe they're not improving academically, or we can't figure out their behavior, or they're not responding to accommodations, or their performance is inconsistent, whatever it is that is this negative situation, we have to try and figure out how to change that, or how to help them to perform or grow in any kind of way. So if you think of a student like a car, and your car is not starting, you have so many different things that it could be. And so you have to troubleshoot through that. So you go out to your car, it's not starting, then you have to consider to yourself, why won't my car start? So it could be any number of things. And so that is what SEL is. SEL is ensuring, it's taking your kids to the mechanic to help them figure out why it is they're not able to start their engines and learn or perform in the classroom. So that is essentially the need of it. So we're gonna hop right into some SEL background information just because I'm not quite sure what all the other sessions have been teaching or where we all are. So I'm gonna go through this as best I can. But this is an extremely personal training. So it's how you can do SEL all the time in your classroom. And so at any point, please unmute yourself and just shout at me and ask a question. Or just give some sort of a feedback. I would love to help you with anything that I can. So if you need me to elaborate on something or head back to something, please let me know. So this is the first step. You are going to do a self-reflection. So if you could go ahead and use this QR code and go in and answer some of these questions for me. And then Jordan, if you can share your screen with the results for us.
It's loading. Okay, there we go. You see it?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want me to go through them? Get through the questions?
Well, does that 19 have, yeah. Well, we can go ahead and go to, can you click that arrow?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. So what it looks like between the two slides is that for our own adult SEL skills, for what the skills that you're bringing to the table that you already have, is they're very relationship heavy. So we're relying a lot on our interactions with other people. The areas that we tend to be a little bit lower in or not so sure of, we're not doing all the time, tend to be the self-reflecting and the self-awareness or even the self-management part. So within those competencies, it looks like we as teachers or as adults are not completely comfortable in self-awareness and self-management, and we're more comfortable in relationships. So how we are impacted by or impacting others seems to be a little bit stronger. Okay, so thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to split up into breakout rooms. And so what I want you to be discussing in your breakout rooms is how does your own SEL development, so the results that you just got, how does your own SEL development impact the instruction or integrating SEL in your classroom? So how well you are doing, how does that impact what you're teaching your students? So I believe, Jordan, are you ready?
We'll see if it works.
Okay. It only sent me to a breakout room, I think, so.
Yeah, I'm going to redo it.
Okay.
Okay. So, breakout rooms. It doesn't. Oh, I have to wait 30 seconds. Hold on.
Okay.
So, some people have been sent and others haven't.
Well, here, you know what we can do? Let's just do a discussion here with us.
Okay.
So just unmute yourself and share with us. So how does your own SEL awareness or skill set, how does that impact your instruction with your students or your work with your students?
Hi, my name is Tracy Goodlow, and I'm at the ELC South. And for me, I think because of my previous training years ago, I used to live in Oklahoma, and SEL was a big component in child development. It helped me to build relationships not only with my students, but with the families that I served and within my own personal life, and being aware of my own emotions. So therefore, if I'm aware of my emotions and how to self-care within myself, I am able to give that to my students and their families as well.
Very good. So I think like what I heard you saying is that you being aware of your emotions and being able to manage it, you've developed coping skills.
Yes.
And then those coping skills that you've developed for yourself, now you have tools in a toolbox that you can offer suggestions out for, like, well, this worked for me, so
yes.
Why don't you try these things? Very good. Thank you. Anybody else? Can you share? What if we went like the other way? You know, if we struggled a little bit with our own awareness of ourselves and how I respond in situations. If I'm not aware of the fact that I am stressed, then that is obviously going to limit how well I can manage that. So what impact would that have on me as a teacher in the classroom?
Mary, Malone, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so when I was first year teaching, I would get super frustrated, and I didn't know that I was getting super frustrated. So I would just kind of get myself all baffled, and then I'd lose complete control of my classroom. So I never really understood how to like get them back. And then as I continued to grow and figured out what was frustrating me, I was able to kind of tune in to what it was.
Ah, very good. Thank you. So what we come to realize is that SEL is a constant thing. It never leaves because it's within you and your own situation, your own skill level, which then is going to turn over to your kids. If you don't know how to multiply, it's going to be real hard for you to teach multiplication. If you don't know how to use an area model, how are you going to teach how to do it? So you have to be proficient or aware of where you are in order to teach it. And so with SEL, it's ever flowing, it's a living and breathing thing, and it's very organic. And so what they've seen is really impactful is the systematic approach where it's in every crevice of the child's life. And so we are going to watch this video on the systematic approach. I'm going to share my screen, hopefully. Somewhere. Okay, here we go. Can you all see it?
Yes.
Every student deserves to walk into school and feel safe and know that every adult in that building is interested in them being successful.
No matter how good the curriculum, no matter how good the professional development, no matter how good the technology, none of it mattered unless a kid showed up ready, willing, and able to absorb the great inputs that we in the educational community have.
Social emotional learning makes kids feel more safe, more willing to take risks, more willing to form meaningful relationships, all of which is shown to have a huge difference in people's growth. And in order to have kids be their most successful,
we need leaders who are well trained to be what I would call a social emotional leader. Their job is to create a building in which everyone feels cared for.
A student is not going to care how much you know until they know how much you care.
As we're thinking about how to keep schools safe, we're not just saying we need more security officers. I mean, we need people in buildings helping kids.
It is more than just about teachers, and it is more than just about leaders. That it actually starts with who interacts with our students first thing in the morning. from a bus driver to a cafeteria worker to whoever's working in the front office as an assistant or receptionist.
When teachers feel cared for and that they belong, and parents feel that their children are in the right place, and kids feel that the school is a place where they're welcomed, learning will happen naturally.
Believe in your kids. Believe that they are ready to learn if you just help them find belonging in their relationships and find purpose in the content in which you're trying to teach them.
Okay, so hopefully you were able to experience the video or at least hear it, but if not, it is on Padlet, so you'll be able to access that if you're not able to do that. So what the systematic approach is saying is that it's this all-encompassing SEL perspective, that it's intentional environments, it's giving students voice, and it's infused in their daily interactions with everybody that they come in interaction with in every schedule, like every hour, every minute of the day, and wherever they may be. So that is the systematic approach, and that's what we're talking about today. So these are the SEL competencies. So there's the 5 competencies: the self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Those 5 competencies impacted Keller ISD's SEL standards. So the SEL standards that Keller ISD has put together is from ages preschool to seniors, and it's scaffolded and just like the TEKS would be. So one builds within the other for each of the different competencies. So for example, this one is hard to see. What you'll see here is that it's for self-awareness, it's 1A. The individuals demonstrate an awareness of their own emotions. You can see the I can statements for a student from kindergarten and 2nd to students in 3rd and 4th grade, and then students in 5th and 6th grade. So that is how the document is set up. And so I did share the elementary and the intermediate grade standards on the Padlet. So those standards now are adopted by campuses, and they will be pushed out through the classrooms. And then next year, the campus will adopt them to, or the district will adopt them to go district-wide. So a systematic approach involves key elements of environment, integrating SEL into content, and explicit instruction. So we are going to dive into each one of those elements specifically. So first, we need to do a self-check. We need to be aware of where we are in each of these areas. So if you could go ahead and use this QR code and complete a quick check for where you are on classroom environment. And then Jordan, whenever you're ready, can you share the results?
Can you see it fine? I don't know what y'all can see and what you can't see.
And I believe there's 2 screens, I think.
Yes.
Okay, can you go back to the first screen? Okay, so in looking at these results, what I'm identifying is that the areas that seem to be a little bit lower are the areas that involve student voice. So when it comes to the classroom environment, there's community, and there is some relationship building within the community, but what were areas that we need to grow tend to be in the ones where the student actually has the voice and a little bit more of the what we would call control of the environment. So let's talk some more about that. So we're going to try the breakout room. It's going to be really quick. Let's do like 3 minutes, Jordan, maybe? Okay. So we're going to put you into breakout rooms again, hopefully. This one will work great. And you're going to talk about how you or your campus intentionally create environments where students feel safe, whatever you want to refer to safe as. So just go ahead and talk with each other about what works and what you've seen work. Okay, so we are going to move forward in the presentation in talking about classroom environment. So we know that we do the community building pretty well based off of your self-check-in. So we're gonna move right into connecting and feeling a level of trust. And so I'm gonna share this video with you.
I have spent my entire life either at the schoolhouse, on the way to the schoolhouse, or talking about what happens in the schoolhouse. Both my parents were educators. My maternal grandparents were educators. And for the past 40 years, I've done the same thing. And so needless to say, over those years, I've had a chance to look at education reform from a lot of perspectives. Some of those reforms have been good, some of them have been not so good. And we know why kids drop out. We know why kids don't learn. It's either poverty, low attendance, negative peer influences. We know why. But one of the things that we never discuss, or we rarely discuss, is the value and importance of human connection. Relationships. James Comer says that no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. George Washington Carver says all learning is understanding relationships. Everyone in this room has been affected by a teacher or an adult. For years, I have watched people teach. I have looked at the best and I've looked at some of the worst. A colleague said to me one time, they don't pay me to like the kids. They pay me to teach a lesson, the kids should learn it, I should teach it, they should learn it, case closed. Well, I said to her, you know, kids don't learn from people they don't like. She said, that's just a bunch of hooey. And I said to her, well, your year is gonna be long and arduous, dear. Needless to say, it was. Some people think that you can either have it in you to build a relationship or you don't. I think Stephen Covey had the right idea. He said you ought to just throw in a few simple things, like seeking first to understand as opposed to being understood. Simple things like apologizing. You ever thought about that? Tell a kid you're sorry, they're in shock. I taught a lesson once on ratios. I'm not real good with math, but I was working on it. And I got back and looked at that teacher edition. I taught the whole lesson wrong. So I came back to class the next day and I said, look, guys, I need to apologize. I taught the whole lesson wrong. I'm so sorry. They said, that's okay, Miss Pearson. You were so excited. We just let you go. I have had classes that were so low, so academically deficient that I cried. I wondered, how am I going to take this group in 9 months from where they are to where they need to be? And it was difficult. It was awfully hard. How do I raise the self-esteem of a child and his academic achievement at the same time? One year I came up with a bright idea. I told all my students, you were chosen to be in my class. Because I am the best teacher and you are the best students, they put us all together so we could show everybody else how to do it. One of the students said, really? I said, really? We have to show the other classes how to do it. So when we walk down the hall, people will notice us. So you can't make noise, you just have to strut. And I gave him a saying to say, I am somebody. I was somebody when I came. I'll be a better somebody when I leave. I am powerful and I am strong. I deserve the education that I get here. I have things to do, people to impress, and places to go. And they said, yeah. You say it long enough, it starts to be a part of you. And so, I gave a quiz, 20 questions. Student missed 18. I put a +2 on this paper and a big smiley face. He said, Miss Pearson, is this an F? I said, yes. He said, then why'd you put a smiley face? I said, because you on the roll. You got 2 right, you didn't miss them all. I said, and when we review this, won't you do better? He said, yes, ma'am, I can do better. You see, -18 sucks all the life out of you. +2 said, I ain't all bad. 4 years, I watched my mother take the time at recess to review, go on home visits in the afternoon, buy combs and brushes and peanut butter and crackers to put in her desk drawer for kids that needed to eat, and a washcloth and some soap for the kids who didn't smell so good. See, it's hard to teach kids who stink. And kids can be cruel. And so she kept those things in her desk, and years later, after she retired, I watched some of those same kids come through and say to her, you know, Miss Walker, you made a difference in my life. You made it work for me. You made me feel like I was somebody when I knew at the bottom I wasn't. And I want you to just see what I've become. And when my mama died 2 years ago at 92, there were so many former students at her funeral. It brought tears to my eyes, not because she was gone, but because she left a legacy of relationships that could never disappear. Can we stand to have more relationships? Absolutely. Will you like all your children? Of course not. And you know your toughest kids are never absent. Never. You won't like them all, and the tough ones show up for a reason. It's the connection, it's the relationships. And while you won't like them all, the key is they can never, ever know it. So teachers become great actors and great actresses, and we come to work when we don't feel like it, and we listen to policy that doesn't make sense, and we teach anyway. We teach anyway because that's what we do. Teaching and learning should bring joy. How powerful would our world be if we had kids who were not afraid to take risks, who were not afraid to think, and who had a champion? Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they can possibly be. Is this job tough? You betcha. Oh God, you betcha. But it is not impossible. We can do this. We're educators. We're born to make a difference. Thank you so much.
Okay. So some key takeaways there are that the relationships are what matters in SEL. And what we noticed in our self-assessments in the adult reflections is that we do a decent job of our relationships. That's the competency that we as a collective group seem to do really well in. Well, if that's what we're really good at, if we're well-rounded in our relationship skills and our social awareness, then why is it that our students' voice in the environment or that connecting piece with our students is lacking? So if you are very good at relationships, it's because you are connecting and in conversation and expressing empathy and building trust between the people around you. We need to do the same for your students. And if that's already something that you're good at, then why not use that in your classroom? So if you can model for your kids what a good relationship looks like, they start to develop their own value, and it increases their awareness of who they are, and they realize that they're a person that matters. So they realize that their reactions and their emotions and their thoughts are important. then they realize that their actions after that can be managed because you've cared enough to walk them through that and develop those coping skills. And then they're able to be aware of their environment around them. And then they too start doing what you're doing with them. So it's a ripple effect. And then they're able to be motivated to perform in the classroom and academically because now all of a sudden they value and they value themselves and they matter and they feel like they have worth to you because you care enough to even just listen to their conversation. And now they value their education and they value performing for you. Their internal motivators have increased. So my question is that as teachers, where do we put our emphasis and where do we spend all of our energy? And when you talk about including SEL into your classroom, it feels like it's one more thing, but really it's the first thing. It's where you should start because everything else is going to trickle down below that. And so we will move through that. So after building trust and community building, the next thing that is essential to environment is student-centered discipline. And this is where that voice really comes in handy. So it's about using relationships, using empathy, being responsive to the situations, and the students staying in the classroom, in the learning environment. You get to stay in this community. We care about you. You're important. I want you to learn. Let's work through this together. And so I am going to share with you a couple different strategies. So some strategies for student-centered discipline is restorative practice. So that's kind of been a buzz for a little bit, but it's about community and it's about using the community to help restore harm that has been done. So if they make a sad choice, then there is a consequence to that, but it doesn't mean that that's their label. So they work together in a community with shared voice on how do we repair this harm? I know that I have hurt you because you've acknowledged that. Now, please share with me, how can I make that better? And that is very essential for the modeling and for the relationships with the students. The next piece is that a lot of our campuses use PBIS. And when you incorporate SEL with PBIS for student-centered discipline, what you get is amazing outcomes. So they're significantly more powerful when they're used together. PBIS alone can actually not be successful for a student in some situations, given, whatever is happening around them. But then when you incorporate this SEL component, when you incorporate allowing them to have a voice and truly connecting with them in their situation and their why, PBS become, or not PBS, not the show, the PBIS becomes more impactful. So PBIS, students begin to understand the expectations. What do you want from me? But then in SEL, they develop the competencies they need in order to meet those expectations. So we're gonna watch another quick video on attunement.
Talk to you about a word we call attunement. And what attunement means in an abbreviated form is, I know the goal you're working towards, and I have enough relationship with you that I can help you get to that goal when you can't do it by yourself. So what it actually means is when you're struggling, you can borrow some of my emotional control until you have your control back and can get through this process. So let's take that to the adult world for a minute. Let's say that you've had a rotten day at work, frustrated with kids, feel like you're not even being effective, and you're about to give up, and you drive home processing all that frustration, and you walk in the front door and you say to your spouse, I should quit. That school's crazy. Kids don't even listen to me there. You don't want your spouse to say, you should quit. Let's write your letter together. What you really are wanting them to do is say, hold on, it isn't about today. Think about the kid last year that would have quit school without your help. Your spouse knows where you are meaning to go, and they can help you get there when you can't go there on your own. That's the place we want teachers to be in our country, where we can see a student struggling that is not going to be able to get to that goal of staying in class and working through the problem without help and being able to borrow from somebody else to get there.
essentially showing is that that attunement is, PBIS tells us this is where I want you to be. This is the expectation. This is what's acceptable. This is positive. And then SEL is, I know that you are missing some key components. Let me help you. And so that is how you can use student-centered discipline. Here is a comparison chart, a side-by-side look at what SEL is and what PBIS is. And so that you'll see that together, they'll be developing lifelong competencies to guide behavior and decision-making. They'll be aware of behavioral expectations moment to moment, and they're proactive in promoting positive skills as well as positive environments. They're given voice, and the families are engaged, and they understand exactly what's expected of them. So obviously, that is an excellent environment for a student to be in, and you're setting them up to be successful citizens. So let's do a quick reflection. So I call these grow and glows. So you're going to share with us an area that you think you are glowing, an area that you are doing well with classroom environment, and then an area that you need to grow, an area that you would like to spend a little bit more time on. So if you could go ahead and complete that for me. And yeah, thank you, Jordan. I hope you guys enjoyed my pictures.
Do you want me to go to the next one?
Sure. Okay, awesome. So that's exactly what we want to see, is our self-awareness. What we're doing well at and what we need to grow should match up. So an area that we needed to, that we weren't really glowing in as a group was the highest area for where we needed to grow. So that was excellent, thank you. So I'm going to skip through that discussion, Jordan, okay? And we are gonna go into integrating SEL into content instruction. And so this is a key part to that systematic approach. So how do I include SEL into what I'm already teaching all the time? And so there's a lot of key components to that, but first we gotta do a self-check-in. So go ahead and let me know where you are already with integrating SEL into your content instruction. Are there two screens on this one or just one?
Just one.
Okay. Okay, awesome. So what that's showing to us is that what we are doing well with integrating is that we have engaging learning. You're great teachers. We've learned and had development around great ways to engage students and how to have discovery learning, exploratory learning, collaborative learning. And so those you can see are already integrating SEL. Boom, check. You're good to go. The other areas are where we are aligning the standards with standards from another content area. So making sure that our goals align. So your teaching pedagogy is in line. So now we need to get our goals in line. So I'm going to share with you, no, I'm not, I'm just kidding. There's the brain break video on the Padlet that I would love for you to explore because it talks about the benefits of a brain break. So instead of spending all of your time teaching and lecturing or exploring or working in that content specific, that you're actually doing your students a favor by giving them a break. And so that video explores with you what that looks like, because their brains aren't actually on a break when you're doing these well-planned intentional brain breaks. They're actually retaining information that you've given 20% faster by giving them this break. So essentially, by teaching less, by having less instruction time, they're actually learning more and they're retaining more at a quicker rate. So this is where that SEL first, then content is very beneficial. So they say for about 10 to 15 minutes of work, there should be about a 3 to 5 minute break. So remembering that these are intentional, they're not just a go crazy. They can be physical, they can be creative, they can be relational. So these are not just everybody go buck wild into a recess break. It is something that is expressive or movement based or connecting with partners. And so those brain breaks where they're not receiving more information, but their brain is allowed to process and work through the information, those are essential. So interval breaks teach students to also manage their time. So we're gonna learn for this amount of time, then we're gonna take these breaks. So sitting for 10 minutes, the student is now aware of themselves and what they can actually complete in 10 minutes. They also become more aware of, I have a 5-minute break, here's what I'm gonna do within those 5 minutes. So this is especially helpful for kids that have ADHD, becoming aware of their time management. So now integrating, the key elements to integrating SEL into your instruction is fostering a mindset, aligning your goals, and interactive pedagogy. A lot of these things you're gonna find, and hopefully you're gonna find, you already do really, really well. And so I want to make sure that you are reassured in that way. So this is what SEL will look like throughout a school day. You give students multiple opportunities for self-directed work, play, and self-management, responsible decision-making. When a student is sent off to discover and explore their own learning, that's a huge component of SEL. When students practice self-awareness by identifying how they feel throughout the day, especially when they're confronted with something difficult, even just checking in with them. How do you feel about this assignment? Or how do you feel about this problem? What's happening with you right now? Are you frustrated? That is an SEL component infused throughout the day. Teacher identifying the social emotional competencies needed for the academic work and incorporates them into the lesson plan. Here's my outcome for math or for ELA or for social studies or whatever it is that your content area is. This is where I need my students to go. What SEL skills are they going to need in order to get there? So academic mindsets are something that I'm pretty sure you're all well aware of. And it's a lot of that growth mindset or math-minded classroom, the things that we've been trained on a lot. And in units of study, it's that first we start with confidence, and then we start working through strategies they may want to try. So the first mindset is I belong to this learning community. I deserve to be here. My ability to understand grows with my effort. So how much I put in is how much I'm going to get out. And this work has value for me. If the student doesn't connect and understand that what they're learning matters or applies to what they want to do, they're not going to do it. And if instructional practices are actively involving students in making meaning of the content, then the students will engage. So that connects with the value. So there are ways that you can do that. So these are different strategies for how you can integrate SEL into your classroom. You use common language. So making sure that the vocabulary that you're going to be using throughout their day, not just in your classroom, but talk to other teachers, talk to the grade level before, talk to the grade level next. Make sure that the common language around SEL or around the content is the same. It makes the student feel more confident. Give positive reinforcements, make learning collaborative, all of these things that you do because you are an excellent teacher. We're not gonna share because we're running out of time. This is too much content. Okay, so I wanted to share with you, and this again is all of my Unit 1 3rd grade ELA lesson plans, which is a living and breathing document, so it's getting updated as we go. But this is an example of how I create my lesson plans to include my reading objective, what I'm going to be doing in my units of study, what toolkit I'm going to use during conferring, and what SEL objectives are going to align with that. And so this way I know what is my goal for reading and what SEL objective is going to help me get there. And here is another example. And so this is what it would actually look like for that first session of Unit 1. When you start talking about building a reading life, you can address like persevering through challenges, setting goals, the power of yet, the growth mindset. So this is all about fostering academic mindset. This is an example of aligning third grade math TEKS with SEL standards. So knowing that instead of working harder and trying to teach SEL and trying to teach math, you actually can teach them at the same exact time. And so these examples and more are actually on that Padlet, so feel free to explore them more later because it is a lot of content. Okay, so we are going to do a self-reflection on integrating SEL into your academic content instruction. These grow and glows, and as well as my playlist that you heard in the beginning, those are also 2 ways to integrate SEL into your content. So I've modeled this lesson to be aligned with SEL competencies. So a lot of that self-awareness and management and goal setting. Awesome. Okay. Thank you for sharing, everybody. So explicit SEL instruction is when you are focused on teaching SEL. You've given the SEL objective. You said, this is what we're doing today. This is what I want you to work on today. You're using the specific SEL vocabulary. So a lot of times people think that SEL is the morning meeting and we're done, or a mindful moment and we're done. But if the students don't understand the vocabulary, they don't know what they're working on, then they're actually not going to achieve anything or be aware of whether or not they've achieved anything. It's no different than any other content. So let's do an explicit check-in before I am running out of time. So let's do a quick check-in of where you are.
I'll update it again.
Correct. So explicit SEL instruction is actually all 3 of those things. And so we can move through that. I'm going to skip this video. It's a school in Naperville, but they show you exactly how they're teaching SEL as a content piece. And that is on the Padlet as well. So strategies that you can use. So what I did is I shared this also in the Padlet. It was from Castle, but these are some examples of how you could explicitly teach SEL. So you can use different lessons based on what's happening in the classroom. If there's an issue that's disrupted the whole class, let's stop and let's have an SEL lesson. So having toolkits ready to approach the need would be excellent. You can also do explicit SEL instruction to help prepare the student for a content lesson that's happening. I do this a lot with reading and writing. The SEL standards and skill sets are essential for true comprehension, envisioning, and inferring, and character traits and connecting with their characters, or writing and expressing their feelings and having words for those different things. And so social justice is also a way that you could introduce the subject or allow someone to understand what's going on in the world around them. So you could do current events with News ELA, and you could do things like for biographies. I did a whole lesson on civil rights and the timeline from the Civil War to JFK's shooting. And we, in our third grade classroom, talked about abuse of power and the rights of humanity in general. And so introducing those social justice issues within the content can be explicit or it can be integrated. Things I have done, daily intentions, these are nice and quick. So I put up on my whiteboard, everybody does a one word. What's your one word for today? What are you gonna focus on today? What's your intention for today? This really helps them with their vocabulary and exploring different traits for character, or setting their goals, short-term goals versus long-term goals. I do a morning meeting, but then there's also a closing circle where we reflect on the day. So how they leave your room is how they'll remember their experience with you. So they need to be greeted with that positive energy, but then you also need to allow them to leave you with that same positive connecting energy. And also it will eliminate your stress dramatically. Big Life Journal is a website that I use a lot, and a lot of those resources are in my Google folder. So when you are talking about explicit SEL instruction, you need to make sure that they're sequenced, just like any other content. You need to make sure that they're active forms of learning, that they're actually doing the learning and exploring the learning. They need to be focused. You have to have clear SEL goals along with SEL vocabulary. And that these skills are targeted, and not only are they targeted, but then we evaluate them. Where were you before? Where are you now? So that's where we've done the self-checks and the glow and grows. That was explicit SEL. So here is your last glow and grow for explicit SEL instruction. I feel like I rushed through that last time. Okay, so this is kind of your exit ticket. So what are your takeaways from today? What elements from today or this systematic approach can you use in your classroom? So if you could use Twitter, and here are some handles and some hashtags that we would like to see you use for SEL. Or you can use Menti, which I will share in just a second. But just any kind of the takeaway, anything that you felt to be beneficial for you, it would be awesome if you could share that. And then here is the QR code for you to post those takeaways also. So that will be shared with others, especially those that are watching this recorded. And then at this time, you can unmute yourself, and I will leave the floor open for you to ask any questions that you may have. And I will give you the gold mine right there.